Good morning and a happy Monday morning to you guys. A big thank you to Jilly on Twitter for the above photo, which kind of gives you an idea of one of the big stories we're talking about today. There's a lot, but yeah. So as usual, I say let's just jump in and get started because there's a lot. Let's go. We're going to start off with the fact that Catherine's right-hand woman, her long-term assistant, Natasha Archer, who's been with Catherine for over 10 years, and we know that she's leaving. She apparently was following Meghan Markle on Instagram, and she made her Instagram page public, but has since made it private again. She was following the As Ever brand, and she's not any longer. She also unfollowed makeup artist Daniel Martin, Delphina, and Heather Dorak, as well as Highbrow Hippie. Now, I think she was doing that because she was working for Catherine and she wanted to follow their official accounts, blah, blah, blah. But now that she's not working for Catherine anymore, she doesn't have to put on the pretense of caring what these people do. Now, I have to say, I find it interesting that she left to set up her own consultancy firm and she's married with 2 children. But yet when Meghan Markle's employee quit to start her own firm, nobody batted an eye. But that employee hadn't been with Meghan Markle but a year or 2, whereas this woman has been with Catherine for 10 years. Double standard much? All right, let's move on. All right, moving on. I can't show the video, but the royal family put up a video. They had the swan upping. Remember, this is an annual tradition where they record the census and health of the swan population on the River Thames. So they weigh them, they measure them, they check them for injury, and then they release them back into the water. I think that's lovely. Let's move on to Princess Beatrice, who is now the patron of the Charter College of Teaching. They put out a statement saying that she's shown support for education through her work with Big Change and other organizations, and her patronage will help elevate the profession. Well, I think that's lovely. Good for her. Moving on. Let's move on now to Princess Anne, who opened a new drug discovery center. She toured the facility. She spoke with the analysts and scientists that are working to improve the lives of patients that have rare genetic diseases. Anne then went to visit Olive Academies in North Cambridge, and she spoke to students who have found mainstream education challenging, but are now thriving in a smaller, quieter environment. I think that's wonderful. Now, sticking with Princess Anne, the Royal Mint has unveiled a new commemorative coin to mark her 75th birthday, and it is the first time that Princess Anne has been on an official UK coin. They're calling it the Anniversary. Get it? Very cute. The design was personally approved by Princess Anne, and its creation is coming from renowned coin designer Thomas Doherty. It has a portrait of Princess Anne on one side, which is based on the official portrait of her taken by John Swannell. It shows Anne wearing the aquamarine pine flower tiara created by Cartier. It has the inscription saying the Princess Royal, 75 years, duty and devotion, and it has her royal official coat of arms on it. You can buy them online. Love it. Everybody's talking about what a hard worker Anne. Do you know that she did 4 engagements in one day? She attended the Evensong at St. George's Chapel, followed by a formal dinner marking the charity's 25th anniversary. Then she visited a new season training session at King's House Sports Ground. She attended a reception to meet players and staff. And then at the end of the day, as patron of the International's transport charity TransAid, she opened their new facilities. This woman never slows down. I love her. Next up, we're going to talk about the Duke of Gloucester, who also went to 4 events in one day. He was in Sheffield. First, he went to CTL Seal to look at the locomotives. Then he was at Prior Making. He visited the Heart of the City Development Henry Boot PLC building. And then lastly, he visited the Green Estate Community Interest building. Once again, another hardworking royal. All right, let's move on to Mike and Zara, who were on their 2nd holiday in Australia this year. And he put up this fabulous picture of the 2 of them on a boat. And listen, they're adorable. And he wrote, "We had the chance to spend a few days on Hamilton Island this week. Despite all the times we've been to Australia, we've never been here before, and it's amazing." Good, I'm glad they're having a good time. Let's move into our Harry and Meghan stuff. What's coming out now is that Harry has a major problem because his homecoming is literally going to depend on Prince William letting him back in, and it's not being taken lightly. Now, the reason this could be a problem is it's being said that these peace talks that are going on are part of Meghan Markle's game plan to try to get back in with the royals. Because they're saying that getting back in with the royal could only benefit Meghan and her reputation and help her expand her brand. And as far as Charles goes, Valentine Lowe said that Harry doesn't want to betray his father, yet he's betrayed all the secrets and he wanted to let things out in, Netflix and The Spare. But Charles, they're saying, is primarily a father than a monarch. And he's really in immense pain that there's this huge rift. And he doesn't want William and Harry to make his last years a misery. He wants to explore reconciliation. And he's perfectly right to try to do so. But that doesn't mean that William's going to take him back. Now, at the same time, the Daily Mail, who I think writes things correctly, said that there's no question of a full-time return to the UK for Harry or his family, but he wants to reconnect with them and he wants Charles to get to know his grandchildren. I don't see how this is going to work because Meghan will never return to the UK and she's never going to let Harry take the kids to the UK. So I don't understand how this is supposed to work. I think Harry has had an epiphany. You guys know how I feel about karma. I wonder when these kids grow up and realize they never met grandparents on either side, that Harry and Meghan's behavior locked them out of any chance of working for the royal family in the future. That Harry and Meghan literally kept them prisoners on their compound because they were so worried for their safety. I think these kids are going to grow up. I think they're going to start using drugs. That's my honest opinion, simply because Daddy said it was really good and it wipes the windshield clean. I think they're going to write books about how rotten it was growing up with their parents. That's a karma thing. I think Harry realizes that while he might get the foot in the door with his dad, he will not be getting his foot in the door with his brother. And when the father dies, Harry's going to be cut off. He already has no communication really with anybody. He has no secrets to leak. And that's why he's going back to the trough, in my opinion. Now let's move on to something different. Apparently there's going to be a show on Channel 5 called The Secret Conversations, Meghan and Harry. Lip reading is the name of it because apparently somebody caught them lip reading. So here's what was said. It was 2 years before Megxit. They were sitting in a Remembrance Sunday service in 2018 and they were engrossed in conversation. And apparently what was said was Meghan said to Harry, take advantage of the situation. And Harry goes, today? And she goes, yes, do it tonight. And Harry leans in and goes, you do realize that this is the end? And Meghan goes, yes, I do know. Now, I told you guys before, they had already spoken to Quibi months and months before they stepped down a now defunct streaming service trying to get in. They said they just backed into streaming with Netflix. That's untrue. They tried to get in on streaming before they left. So, yeah, it looks like this was planned literally from the day they got married. Moving on, I just wanted to touch on this. Remember I told you that William and Harry discussed and promised each other they weren't going to use Diana for PR stunts and relevance, and that's basically what Harry is doing, as well as Meghan Markle, cashing in on Diana by copying everything about her. Stephen Colbert, however you want to say his name. I had no idea any of this was going on until Jimmy Kimmel said something, because apparently the two of them are friends, but he's been canceled by late night TV. I consider this to be the Markle effect and karma. Let me just remind you guys that this is a late night host who said some really nasty things about Catherine and the fact that she was missing. And then when the cancer diagnosis came out, he did a backtracking and my jokes may have been tasteless and I apologize, blah, blah, blah. But he also mocked Catherine, the Princess of Wales, over supposedly Prince William's affair with Catherine's friend, Rose Hanbury. So what did Rose Hanbury do? She fired off legal documents to Stephen Colbert, who then went on the air and apologized for that as well. So you can't just throw stuff around nilly-willy because you think you're untouchable. CBS, I think he was on CBS. They've had enough and he's been canceled. But again, like I said, I feel like this is a Markle thing because he had Harry on. And in case you guys haven't noticed, anybody that touches Harry and Meghan, bad things come. I'm telling you. All right, let's move on to the second big news of the day. Apparently, Meghan's show, With Love Meghan, did not break into Netflix's top 10 programs. It didn't even break into the top 300. Unbelievable. It was part of her $100 million deal. They're saying it was a flop due to the figures that were released. It was ranked 383. It only had 5.3 million viewers across the globe. Do you know how many people there are just in the United States alone? And as if you could not imagine this, Harry's Passion Project Polo, it ranked 3,436 out of 7,000 shows and was only watched globally by 500,000 people. Let's not forget that the second series, which was filmed the same time as the first series, is going out later on this year. And apparently Chrissy Teigen, who's also known as a massive bully, will be on the show. And there are sources saying, oh yeah, there's going to be a third series because Ted Sarandos is a massive fan of Meghan's. He calls her the rock star. Even though this show has been called, quote, an exercise in narcissism by The Telegraph, toe-curlingly unlovable TV by The Guardian, and suffered a rating of 36 PC on Rotten Tomatoes. I believe they only released half the show because they wanted to see how it was received, and now they're massively editing. Let me point out what Meghan said. Listen to this.
Yes, I wrapped season 1 of my Netflix series. Still had to promote it. Still had to be in the edits for season 2. We were in pre-production of one season while we were doing post-production of the other. It's constant. I just wrapped edits on season 2 of With Love Meghan last week. So it's still ongoing.
So did you hear what she just said? 1 month ago or 3 weeks ago, she was on a podcast and she said, we just finished the edits. So the reason that she's just now finishing the edits is because Netflix realized what a disaster it was and they're fixing it, or they're trying to make it more palatable for everybody. So her show was an absolute flop, and one of the royal experts came out and said that Meghan's decision to film the second series before the first episodes were even released was a massive mistake, because now look, they're having to go back and fix it because the first ones did so badly. Now, before we get to our last big story of the day, I have to throw this out. We know that Samantha Markle sued Meghan Markle for defamation. She's had death threats, all this stuff. We know that her case was, I guess it was dismissed. Anyway, she launched an appeal last year against the ruling, and the appeal is going underway in September. And so Meghan Markle's attorneys are going to have to show up, and they're trying to get the case thrown out. I'll keep an eye on this for you. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have been mocked again by the Family Guy. This is the second time. The first time was 2 years ago. This episode called Twain's World, which aired July 17th, in which Brian and Stewie, remember, they travel back in time. The talking dog compares the couple to some of history's worst events. And after Stewie warns Brian that taking a certain action while traveling through the past could change the course of history, Brian says, you always say that, but doesn't history pretty much suck? And then using the comedy rule of 3, he mentions Hitler and the Crusades before he pipes up Prince Harry marrying Meghan Markle. And in the next moment, the show cuts to one of the cutaway gags with Harry sitting on a couch watching the episode. Again, he says, and then he turns towards the camera with his hand on his hips. Oh, like any of your wives are so much better. You guys remember that when Harry said I shouldn't have left the made-up nonsense? And let's not forget South Park, the worldwide privacy tour. I don't see this stopping anytime soon. I mean, they're such good targets. And it's all their own fault. That's my opinion. Oh my goodness, I want your comments on one. Don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe. Don't forget to check and make sure you're still subscribed. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the links to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my father's book, which is still for sale on Amazon, a link to my second channel, and a link to my Amazon wish list, as well as a physical address. For those of you who've donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.